What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this video is interesting. It's one that I just came across in my suggested videos. It's by a channel called Abolitionists Rising, and they're essentially out in public talking about abortion and comparing it to slavery. It's a very interesting angle that I've never seen before. I'm interested in getting you guys' thoughts in the comments. We're going to jump into this thing, but real quick, got to thank the sponsor of the show, Bioprotein Technology, the makers of BioPro Plus. It's an amazing non-synthetic growth hormone alternative, all natural. You just take it orally in the morning on an empty stomach, and the benefits are amazing. Better energy, better recovery, better libido, even better skin. Some people have reported it's just a phenomenal product, all natural, and you can use my code and get $30 off a month's supply to try it out for yourself. If you do, let me know how it goes. I'm really excited to hear because it's gone great for me. Okay. We're going to jump into this thing. I want to hear your opinions. I know this is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. And as I said, I've never seen it presented quite this way. Anyway, let's jump into this thing.
All these other signs are all right. That one probably not.
Well, I see how it's got triggering things on there where you could say it causes issues, but I think even for you, it doesn't cause issues.
Oh, it does.
You should have asked your black friend if that was okay, because that's not.
I want anybody to be open to what y'all have to say. I would basically, I would go at it about a respectful way.
Well, I hear you, but maybe consider it's not all that disrespectful.
All right, I'm going to pause it here so you guys can see it. So you see at the top, they have the N-word, as was used back in the day, for sale at auction. It's an illustration of slave auctioneers. And they say, don't like slavery, don't buy a slave. And then my property, my prerogative. That was a common argument made by slave owners when this was an ongoing debate in our past, our dark past. And you know, he has the slave here with the awful whip marks on his back. And then it goes down to compare this to abortion. All right, so as you can see, it's definitely a poster made to create shock factor, and I think it does just that. But it parallels the argument of don't like slavery, don't get a slave, to don't like abortion, don't get one, which is, of course, often said. And then the argument, my body, my choice, making the parallel to what they said in the past, my property, my prerogative. And I think that the argument here is basically you're talking about another human being. So where the abortion debate really breaks down is one side believes that it's a life, a distinct human life after conception, and the other side, you've probably heard often, says it's just a clump of cells. So if you're to believe that it is a life, a distinct human life with unique DNA and the potential to become something great in this world and contribute to this world, this argument makes sense because basically back in the day, slaves were considered less than human. Just like today, a fetus is considered not human, right? And the argument back then was, no, they're humans just like us. So they have rights just like us. You can't just abuse them and kill them as you wish. And so obviously the abortion argument is a little different because it is a distinct human life within another human's body. And that's where it really gets blurry for a lot of people because the my body, my choice argument comes into play. Of course, the rebuttal to that is, well, that baby's body is not your body. That's an autonomous human, right? So I can see where the argument comes from in this case, and we're going to see how people respond to it. You can probably guess that it generates a lot of controversy.
What do y'all think about this? Any of this?
Well, no one has opinion on my own body, so.
I don't have an opinion on your own body. Not one. You can do with your body what you want.
But this sign.
Well, if there's a body inside your body, I have an opinion about that.
just some kind of help y'all out. Maybe take the slavery out of it, because that might make a lot
Why?
of people
Why
mad.
so?
It would make a lot of people mad.
It's supposed to make a lot of people mad. I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Why does it make you mad?
I mean, because I'm
It's
black.
a derogatory term.
Well, like, so do you think that like white people standing up against slavery back in the 19th century were good?
I mean, everybody's got their own
Well, like, I mean,
goods and bads. So
like a
not
white guy
saying
who-
everybody was good.
like a white guy who didn't own slaves, didn't know what it's like to own slaves or have to run a
black
plantation.
people also own slaves.
Right.
I just think slavery overall is bad.
Is bad.
That's a more sore topic. I mean,
The whole thing's a sore
if you want
topic.
anybody to be open to what y'all have to say, I would basically, I would go at it about more a respectful way.
Well, I hear you, but maybe consider it's not all that disrespectful.
To you.
Well, to anyone. So like, so
So I could see how it would be disrespectful if it were, in some twisted way, supporting slavery, but it's denouncing it. And it's denouncing it in parallel to denouncing abortion. So if it's offensive, I don't quite understand that. This is an undeniable part of our history. And in fact, a lot of people on the left try to argue that the right doesn't want to teach the awful history of the past. Here's an example of someone showing just that, and they're being essentially labeled as being controversial, offensive, etc. Well, look, the past was dark. It was awful. Awful things happened. He's showing just that. And he's making a parallel to something happening today. So he's showing this to show slavery was awful. Here's how they tried to justify it, and it's wrong.
no, let me just hear me out. So Martin Luther King, he connected what he did to earlier movements, right? He would talk about what Hitler did to the Jews.
Sorry for the lag.
I think people
there.
coming up and saying like, "Hey, man, you can't talk about what Hitler did to the Jews. That's a different thing." And whenever these guys stood up for the abolition of slavery, that's what people said. Hey, you don't like slavery? Don't own one. It's not up to you.
But I don't think slavery and the way it was done in the United States equates to
Abortion.
Well, they're not the
So
same.
it's not the same at all. So I don't
Well, no,
think
they're
it's
not.
wrong
You're
right
right.
there.
I agree. They're not the same thing.
But it's
I'd
not
say-
even in the same realm.
Same. Well, you don't agree with me, but I'd say the argument is it's in the same category:
Of what?
dehumanization and destruction.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no matter your position on abortion, I think that you have to at least agree with that. So on the pro-choice side or the pro-abortion side, there's essentially a bifurcation, right? There are those who say, yeah, it's a human life, but you still have the right to end it. And then there are those who say it's not a human life. Those who say that it's a human life and you still have the right to end it, I think that is as evil as it gets, personally. If you're acknowledging, yeah, we're killing this baby, and it is a human, and it is a life. On the other side of the argument, on the pro-abortion side, though, it's that it's not even a human. And that's the parallel he's making. The arguments in support of it were that slaves aren't even humans. They're not like us. They're beneath us. They're something different. So I can see what he means here.
So what do people say to justify abortion? That they're not really
No,
person.
because it's their own body. It's a woman's right to do what they want.
They say
with
that they're
their body.
so a little human inside your body is a human. They're an unborn human developing in your body.
If it's just cells, it's not a human.
They don't know if they're born or not.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure. People don't need to know a lot. We can't kill people just because of their lack of knowledge in something.
It's not even a human.
Dehumanization and destruction.
No, it is see.
It can't speak, it can't walk, it can't think for itself.
Are you talking about black people or unborn people?
She's not talking about the Negroes.
No. Well, here's the deal. But here's the deal. Just
But no,
listen.
and it's not
No.
even anywhere near
The
the same.
the comparison is people. Just
no
just
one's
listen.
talking about black people.
People in the 19th century to
We're
justify.
not in the 19th century.
We aren't. This is the thing. This is the thing. People justified the dehumanizing, destructive treatment of black people
That's it
by
different.
saying exactly what you said. They're not human. They can't even think. They did say that. I promise
Okay,
you.
well,
Look it
a
up. Historians.
No, they didn't say
Cells
they
that
weren't
is not
human. They were saying they
developed.
said they were less than
Mm-hmm.
our race. Our race is better, right? And then that
Right.
goes into the
Yeah.
dehumanization. I get it. However,
Kind of like
it's
saying
not-
No, there was actually quite a bit of argument that they were a totally different species. You can look this up. It's awful. It's disgusting, but those opinions existed. In fact, in the scientific community, there were scientists in the Royal Academy who tried to argue by doing ridiculous comparisons of skulls and such, that in fact black people were a totally different species and inferior. So her argument is false, as far as I know, as far as everything I've read. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting that they did that. And I mean, it really is kind of the exact same thing. You know, you're saying they're less than us. They're not even human, right? In the case of abortion, they're not even human yet. They don't know they're alive. They can't walk. They can't blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, so does someone in a coma, right?
A mother is more valuable than a child.
And it is.
Is a slave owner more valuable than a slave?
If we're not, that's a different.
I'm saying it's the same thing.
But it's not.
It's the same. It's the same process to justify
Man,
it.
why are you even saying anything? Okay,
So
well,
I'm out here with Sonia. She's
I hate that argument, right? You're a man. Why are you even saying anything? I mean, that just because you happen to. So let's use the slavery example, right? That's like saying you're not a slave owner. Why are you even saying anything? Well, I'm saying something because I care about people's lives. I think we're all humans and we all deserve the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's ridiculous to say that. It's like, you know, oftentimes you'll hear this. Well, you're not one of them, so you don't get to have an opinion on it. It's like, well, look, man, if you want to use that argument, okay, but gosh, I certainly see a lot of leftist people of color telling me exactly what it's like to be a white person in America when they haven't had that lived experience, right? So if we're going to be intellectually consistent, we need to be intellectually consistent. So that's why I think that's a ridiculous argument. You're allowed to have opinions on things. I mean, gosh, if we accepted that, then we would have never abolished slavery, because the people who didn't own slaves, why does their opinion matter, right?
a woman. I'm out here with Rachel. She's a woman. We all say the same thing, right? Men
Okay,
and
well, they're also how old, and they can almost not have kids, so.
wait, she's in her early 20s.
And it looks like she's also chosen a certain lifestyle that doesn't go with her freedom of thinking either, but that's okay.
Wow. So that is crazy. She said, first off, she said they look old, so they don't get to have an opinion on abortion. So not only do you not get to have an opinion on abortion if you're a man, but if you're a woman of a certain age, you also don't get to have an opinion on abortion. And then when she finds out she's in her 20s, right, childbearing age, she basically attacks the way she looks.
Well, besides you guys being judgmental about people you talk to, I was just wanting to.
I'm not. No, you're.
I'm not. No, you're.
I have to say, hearing that right there, the blonde with her back turned to us, I can't help but think about Malcolm X and what he said about white liberals. And it's so pervasive, right? Look, call it like it is. Be objective. White liberal women. Perfect example right here. I am being judgmental. They just think that their knowledge is superior. They know better than everyone, even than the people of color that they purport to advocate for. And they don't even see it. It's disgusting.
You judged her pretty harshly.
No. I said it just looks like she chose a lifestyle that she doesn't really think for herself, and that's fine. Whatever. I'm just.
I like the editing on this.
Hey Rachel, I have a question.
Yes?
What do you think about abortion?
Abortion is murder and must be abolished, not regulated, and criminalized as murder immediately without exception or compromise.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make sure you understand.
You know, to be the side also that purports to support body positivity and inclusivity, they're attacking this poor woman for being overweight. It just tells you so much.
Because we're not saying slavery and abortion are the same thing. The sign says that the arguments...
That's what you're comparing it to.
No, the arguments to justify slavery...
You said having an abortion is the same as owning a slave.
No, hold on. Just calm down a little bit.
He didn't say that at all.
I don't want you to think I said something I didn't say.
Tell her to calm down.
Okay,
What I'm saying is, see the thing, don't like slavery, don't own a
I was
slave.
just trying to assist.
All these other signs are all right. That one probably not.
What,
You're
you,
probably gonna get somebody
this
a
is the
little
one
bit
that people are mainly mad about.
Well, I mean, you are in Oklahoma. I'm just saying that one right there is probably going to cause some issues.
But once you start thinking all humans have rights, this makes sense.
But it's not the same.
But if you think
that right there doesn't equate to abortion.
no, some people
Never, not now.
some people say some humans don't have rights until they're born.
It's not going to ever equate to what you're putting out there.
Right.
It's not going to ever equate to what you're trying to put out.
Do you think that they used to say slavery will never be abolished?
I'm not saying that the derogatory term that is displayed on your
That's an actual.
poster.
That's an actual historical drawing.
But right now, in the 21st century,
Right.
that is a derogatory term.
It is.
Once again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to proclaim that the right is trying to wipe away our gross history of slavery, but then say you can't show this because it's offensive, those two things are mutually exclusive. You either have to be willing to show the disgusting dark history that we have or not. So oftentimes you see this. The argument will change depending on the setting.
It's
And
evil, though,
never-
right?
It is evil. And
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't
It's
use that
going
word.
to cause issues.
Yeah.
And we're letting you know from
I hear you.
that side.
I hear you.
Like it's not going to curb. Nothing's going to come good from seeing that. That's the first thing that went to my eyes. You know,
Yeah.
on the marketing side.
So, quick editor's note here. From a marketing perspective, this sign did exactly what it was designed to do. It says what it says in big bold letters, and it makes you look at the rest of the sign and try and figure out what's trying to be said, and it will provoke conversations about abortion and about slavery and about how the arguments for both can be the same. And it did exactly what it was designed to do, as you can see by this video. It provoked conversation. So if you want to get this
That's
sign
right.
for yourself, go to store.abolitionistsrising.com and pick it up.
The first
I
thing
like
you
this
do,
sign.
you
This
read,
is a good one. I like that one.
I drew both of them.
Even though I don't agree with the concept, like I think that's a good one. That's not so like.
Wait, she doesn't agree with the concept that women are not sex objects?
But see, that one's.
Problematic.
See, they both try to do something. Try to make people think women are not sex objects. Everyone says they agree with it. Of course, there's lots of people out there that do treat women as sex objects, right? There are, but culturally, people claim to agree with the first thing, but not the second thing. But the idea that babies are body parts is non-scientific. It's unreasonable. Because I think that honest sort of thing, like, no, abortion is murder and it's a permissible murder, is at least
It's
honest.
not murder.
Well,
But
like
I play into your little mental illness because it's funny to me.
you think I'm mentally ill?
Yes.
I-
you're mental-
Why?
Once again, the condescending white liberal female strikes with insults and, there's nothing worse than someone who has the deadly combination of low IQ and high confidence. And I hate ad hominem attacks. I don't know this person, but based on her rhetoric, it seems apparent to me that that is what she is.
I think you.
Because I think
you've
that
had
I should
so
stand
much
up for those who
privilege.
can't stand up for
I think
themselves.
you've had so much privilege to not be
Other
put in
people
a
can
situation
stand
where
up
you
for
would
themselves.
have to get an abortion, right? That you're just speaking out of not knowing. You've never
Yeah.
put yourself in the shoes of somebody that might have to get an abortion.
Well, I'll
right?
tell you
I
at least the
agree,
reasons
agree
I
you should
believe.
get an abortion recreationally. I agree with that, right? But I don't agree in making it like nationwide, giving states back the rights to decide.
It's interesting she says that. I don't believe in recreational abortions, which I'm not sure how she defines that term, but a very small percentage of abortions are actually due to incest, etc., and the health of the mother, for example. The massive majority of them are likely what she's calling recreational abortions. But then she says she doesn't agree in giving the states the rights back, which of course is the most constitutional way to approach this. And when you do that, so whenever the conversation of states' rights in the context of abortion comes up, people often talk about one side, right? There are going to be states that restrict it. There's the 6 weeks thing, I think, in Texas. There are states that have a heartbeat bill. But what they don't talk about is a lot of states will make it even more lenient. You have states like Colorado, I think, that are essentially teetering on post-birth abortion. third trimester abortion in a lot of states, I think New York, Virginia, maybe California, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, are a result of that as well. So what you get is a spectrum depending on what the voters of that state decide and their legislation enacts, their legislatures enact in that particular state. So you get a spectrum of all these things. So you get more abortion rights in a lot of states. And they never talk about that, interestingly.
So someone like me that thinks that you should criminalize abortion and protect all human beings, like the laws...
The verbiage you're using is really good for you.
Well, the laws against murdering born humans should be applied 100% same to unborn humans. Because humans all have rights. And I'm not a hypocrite when it comes to human rights.
But this right here is going to cause some issues. I'm just trying to tell y'all
I like the recommendation. I've had that sign for a while, and it doesn't really cause issues. I see how it's got triggering things on there where you could say it causes issues, but I think even for you, it doesn't cause issues.
Oh, it does. It does. I'm open to seeing like what y'all have to say or whatever.
But you understand.
I went to Oklahoma Baptist University. I have a dad that was in and out of prison growing up, a single mom, dealing with all sorts of that, and I'm a police officer, so I'm from like all different realms, and I like to hear what other people have to say.
Which is why I was trying to explain the sign, so you understand that the sign is saying the arguments made to justify slavery are same arguments. Slavery and abortion are not the same thing. But the arguments, my property, my prerogative, is akin.
Not at all related, and the fact that you're trying to relate them is real fucked up.
What am I trying to relate?
Are you trying to say that them saying if you don't like slavery, just don't mind? What is the message here?
I'm saying exactly what it says. So exactly what it says. Back in the day, so I think that slavery is wrong. And I think the people who stood up and said it should be abolished, which is a minority of people stood up and said this is evil, it should be abolished. They said slavery is wrong because people are made in the image of God, they're valuable, you can't treat a human like an animal. So when people stood up and fought against slavery, the people in their culture came and said, if you don't like slavery, you don't have to own a slave. And they said, I don't have to be a plantation owner to know it's wrong. They're men and their brothers. And they said, listen, why are you telling me what to do with my property? My property is my prerogative. And the abolitionists said, no, your property is my neighbor, and I want to love them as myself. Slavery should be abolished. Today, when you say, hey, you're saying my body, my choice, but that's not your body, that's my neighbor. I want to love them.
So my body's not like
your body is your body.
But it's not. Apparently.
Yeah. No, your body is totally your body.
Apparently not.
If there's a body inside your body, then there needs to be someone who would advocate for them.
It's in my body,
So-
so I'm the one that's having to suffer.
So
I don't think, can you get pregnant?
No, I don't believe men can get pregnant. I
will say,
am not
you
that.
probably should have asked your black friend if that was okay.
Yeah, that was a bit of a jump and a claim.
I should have. What do you mean? What's a lie?
You should have asked your black friend if that was okay, because that's not.
Is showing our real history okay? It's so contradictory. Circular arguments, just blah.
I'm pretty sure if I get every single black person.
No. Here's the deal. If you find black people who are against abortion, they agree with it. They can think about it and understand it, and they don't misunderstand it.
And I'm saying I don't agree with
But you support abortion. Literally what he just said. You're not understanding.
So they used to sell black people on auction blocks, and they'd have signs that would say Negroes for sale and other animals. So they would dehumanize them in order to sell.
So you're saying they're doing the same way?
Yeah, so like it's not saying that slavery and abortion are the same thing. What it's saying is the arguments used to justify the evil of slavery are the same as the arguments used to justify the evil of abortion. So it's not meant to be offensive, but get the people to think, because they'd say something like, who are you to tell me what to do with my property, is what they would say. And to those of us who think that the freeborn humans made in the image of God and it's our neighbor, it's like, who are you to tell me what to do with my body? I'm sorry, it's not your body, it's my neighbor, fellow human. Yeah. So I realized like the N word on the sign, it's like boom. So I try to, you know, is that not offensive now?
Yeah, that's just the first thing I saw. Was like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go. Exactly what he said. A reasonable black person comes up, they understand the analogy, they understand the argument, they don't let emotion cloud their judgment. And that's exactly what you saw 5 minutes later after these, whatever they were, young women were giving him all kinds of grief for it, wouldn't actually listen to his arguments. So I just thought this was a very interesting way to approach this. I've never seen this analogy made before. Of course, people kept saying, oh, so you're trying to say abortion is like slavery? And he had to reiterate over and over and over again. That's not what he was saying. He was saying the reasons used to justify both of them are quite similar. It boils down to dehumanizing the victim, right? And again, the entire abortion argument comes down to whether you think it's a distinct human life or not, right? And if it's a distinct human life, I mean, again, I understand complications. I understand there are scenarios where it has to be done, right? 100%. I have a child. I have another child on the way. You know, God forbid something would happen where there are complications and it's the life of my wife or the life of our child. I understand that those occur, and I think that you should have the option for medical intervention to save life, right? 100%. And my views are evolving on this now because I grew up in a secular home. I guess you would say a secular home, really a home with no values because my parents weren't there. And then I went to college and studied the sciences, went to grad school and did my thesis in comparative biochemistry. And so it was always just sort of something I didn't take the time to think critically about, and I just accepted sort of the narrative that was given to me in the academic institutions. It's just a clump of cells, it's women's rights, it's reproductive rights, etc. But I do have to say, when you start to really think critically about it, look, man, that is a human being with distinct DNA. It's not your body. It's a body inside your body. So obviously that's a very complex issue. But my wife right now is, I think, 19 weeks pregnant. I mean, she's very close to being on the verge of, if, you know, in the next month or two, she has to have an emergency C-section or the baby's born prematurely, that baby will survive, right? So when you get to that point, why not just let the baby live? Why do people want to get abortions that late, right? So it's a very blurred, complex issue. There are obviously hardline approaches on both sides. And now that I'm a parent and I look at my daughter and I cannot fathom just choosing to use the words of that young woman, recreationally get an abortion. You know, I think it's a synergy of a lot of factors. I think that how we've reduced sex to this casual thing is not great. I think that how we've reduced marriage is not great. So there are a lot of very important issues that feed into this. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm very curious to hear what you think about this. It's controversial. Do you like the analogy? Do you think it makes sense? Let me know. And by the way, if you could please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so we can get more visibility on these videos. I would greatly appreciate it. YouTube does us no favors because this type of content doesn't exactly get encouraged by the algorithm. And love you guys. Keep fighting the good fight. Until next time, keep your minds free.